NC Pork, raising the bacon, raising the bar.
There's a very intriguing matchup in Eastern North Carolina this week. BYU is 2-0. They're making the trip from Provo to Greenville to take on 2-1 East Carolina. Primetime window for the Pirates on national TV, 7:30 Saturday night, ESPN2. BYU, though, DG, is a 7-point road favorite.
Yeah, on the one hand, this is a big-time, exciting opportunity for the Pirates. Undefeated Power 4 opponent, BYU being 2-0, national TV, as you mentioned, and in front of what I imagine, and you know as well, will be a packed house of 50,000 plus in Greenville, NC. On the other hand, in all likelihood, this also will be a very difficult challenge for ECU at the same time. Under their 10th year coach, and man, would I love to see Chris Edwards look at the BYU pronunciation guide that comes with their game notes. Man, I've never seen more hard to pronounce names on a single team, but I'll get the coach's name right. He's in his 10th year, Kalani Sitake. The Cougars under his watch have been a very successful program on a consistent basis. And just last year, they made a huge splash as, at the time, second-year members of the Big 12. They went 11-2. They finished in the national top 15, but a lot, I mean a huge majority of the key players from that BYU team are now gone. Although BYU absolutely annihilated its first two opponents, Portland State and Stanford, by a combined score of 96-3. It's important to remember, one, that Portland State is just an FCS program, and two, that Stanford, just my opinion, probably will finish near the bottom of the Atlantic Coast Conference this season. In addition, the Cougars start a true freshman at quarterback, a January enrollee, so he could go through spring practice.
We love that.
Named Bear Bachmeier, brother of former Wake Forest quarterback Hank Bachmeier. Bear, B-E-A-R is his first name. He's a prep star from California who, believe it or not, became the first true freshman ever to start a season opener in the history of a BYU football program that you and I, or maybe only I in some of these cases, has produced such legendary QBs as Steve Young, Jim McMahon, Heisman Trophy winner Ty Detmer, and others. Bachmeier does have experienced weapons around him in a junior running back named L.J. Martin, easy to pronounce, and a fifth-year senior wide receiver named Chase Roberts, also easy to pronounce. Just wait until you get all the Samoans and Hawaiians on the roster. But he is playing as a quarterback behind a rebuilt BYU line, and Stanford was able to get some pressure on Bachmeier, sack him 3 times, and limit the Cougars' offense to just 25 points in that game. ECU's defense, remember, has now played 10 consecutive dominant quarters of football against some lesser competition, yes, but after that slow start in the Pirates' 24-17 loss at NC State. ECU hammered Campbell 56-3, and then they just went to Coastal Carolina of the Sun Belt and shut out the Chanticleers 38-0. More on that accomplishment during our shout-out segment later in today's program. Everyone agrees that BYU is light years better than either Campbell or Coastal. But could this confident, blitzing ECU defense force a true freshman quarterback into some mistakes and take advantage of some of those mistakes and maybe get that home crowd fired up along the way? We'll see Saturday night, but that's the recipe. Meanwhile, just as ECU will face its biggest challenge of the season in BYU, the Cougars will be facing the most dangerous offense on their schedule so far. Portland State just couldn't block BYU. Stanford did not have much of a passing threat. The Cardinals just don't have a great quarterback this year. So the Cougars just stacked and crowded the line of scrimmage so that they could shut down some pretty talented Stanford running backs. When they know the run is coming, of course, it's easier to stop. ECU offers a very stark contrast in the form of its redshirt junior quarterback, Caton Hauser, the Michigan State transfer, who's now in his second season as the Pirates starter and who, as we speak, ranks number 6 in the nation with 324 passing yards per game. So BYU's got a whole new challenge, right? It remains to be seen if ECU's offensive line can protect Hauser from a BYU defensive front that, man, there are 300-pound tackles, there are 270-pound defensive ends, and there are even 240-pound linebackers. You know, BYU often has an older, more mature lineup, and that front seven is enormous on defense. They're also loaded, though, with transfers and new faces. So we'll see. If the Pirates, we know they love their receiving core, Anthony Smith, Yannick Smith, Brock Spalding, and others. They just need to protect their quarterback if they're going to make this an interesting game against BYU.
This has been Bold North State Football Daily, an exclusive presentation of the North Carolina Sports Network. Make sure you follow us on social media at the NC Sports Net, and check out our website that is wall-to-wall coverage of North Carolina sports at ncsportsnetwork.com. Our foundational partner is the North Carolina Port Council, raising the bacon, raising the bar. Telling the stories of the bold North State, this is the North Carolina Sports Network.